if I had the inner wisdom that I feel that I have for myself now, I would go back and I would say, appreciate who you are. And I'm not talking about Instagram selfies, self-love, look at me. I have, there's this whole hype about self-love, right? But it's true. When we can really appreciate ourselves in our day-to-day life, whatever we're going through, whatever we're doing, then these experiences, these resistances that we have to life, they don't need to come in, they don't need to continue to come in the way that they have.
Hi, and welcome to the Awakening series. My name is Kimberly Archuleta. Today we have an honored guest. His name is Tyler Dill. I'm so excited to have you on the show, Tyler. I've watched a bit of insight in regards to different videos that you have online, and I am like, wowed. Not only am I wowed, you're now one of my life coaches. So to say the least, you I definitely have an amazing story, an amazing background, and an amazing experience. And I'd love for you to talk about it. But before we get started, I have a question for you. If you could tell me what your billboard would be that everyone who drove by, walked by, rode their bike by would see, what would it be? What would it say?
It would say, our ability to be vulnerable is the greatest strength we have.
Oh, I like that. Oh, so hard to be vulnerable. Oh my gosh. I love that. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. That's beautiful. It's wonderful. Thank you, Tyler. Welcome to the show. Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. And also for, getting into, things that happen that might be a little hard to talk about.
Sure. No problem. I'm happy to talk about anything, really.
Oh, thank you.
So, yeah.
Well, if you don't mind, if we can get into a little bit of your journey and then also getting into your near-death experience.
Okay, sure. So I'll just briefly talk about my journey prior to my near-death experience. And I was a very vulnerable child, I would say. I felt like I didn't fit in the world. And when I say vulnerable, I would say it would have to be really being a sensitive person and sensitive to the world, the feelings of others, the feelings of animals and plants, and my own personal connection to nature. Even though I didn't fit in, and I was kind of a rebel, even like through high school, I was still liked by people because I think they admired my differentness. But at the same time, there was a lot going on inside of me, a lot of pain going on inside of me, a lot of resistance to life going on inside of me. And that had accumulated over the years to the point that when I actually started going to college the first time, it all started to come up, and it came up in the form of depression for me and complete sadness and not wanting to be here on this planet. So that was the catapult to how I experienced my near-death experience. And
if you don't mind me asking, I'm sorry, as far as your depression, I think we all have gone through some type of depression. How long did this depression last while you were in college?
So it lasted 2 years. I was there 2 years before my near-death experience. And as soon as I had really, since I arrived in college, it had begun. And maybe it was a sense of homesickness, but it was also, I was alone. Even though I was making friends, I didn't know, like a lot of people in their early 20s, they don't know the direction of their lives. They're in a state of kind of limbo. Not everybody, but I think a lot of people at that age feel that way. So that depression was kind of throughout my whole life, but it was an accumulation. I don't know if that answers your question, but
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good long time to be depressed, away from your family, feeling this feeling night and day, maybe starting to escalate a little more and more. And so let's get into your NDE.
Okay. So this depression basically, it showed me that I didn't want to be on the planet anymore. And I know there are a lot of people that feel that way. They don't feel like they belong here. And I felt that way very, very deeply. So my communication, with the divine, with God, was telling it that I did not want to be here. Please take me. I can't stand being in this body and on this planet. This is too much for me. I just couldn't handle it. So one day I made one final exclamation to the universe and said, please take me. Now's the time. I can't stand this. Let's go. I can't be here. So about 2 or 3 days later, I was mountain biking in the redwood forest, which was my place of refuge, the place that I would go often that helped me. It was connected to, very close to the college where I was attending at the time. And so I was familiar with the trails. I was familiar with the woods. I was familiar with the trees and my communication with the trees. So this day was really no different. It was morning time. The fog was just clearing. That time of year, the fog comes in California to the coast, and then it works its way inland. So the fog was just clearing and the sun was coming out. I was there for maybe about 2 hours before I decided to head back home. And on my way down the hill, there were plenty of jumps going down the hill, and I was familiar with them. And it was the very last jump is where I had the accident. And I was familiar with that jump in the past. However, I noticed that as soon as I hit that jump, that it had been built up. Somebody, since the last time that I took the jump, had built it up nearly vertically. And it was almost, I would say that even pro mountain bikers would have a hard time dealing with this jump. I didn't have a helmet because I didn't consider myself an extreme sports enthusiast as far as mountain biking is concerned. And I felt like, I knew what I could do, and I wasn't, I thought it was cool. I didn't think it was cool to have a helmet. So I took the jump. As soon as I hit that jump, I knew that I was dead or something was going to happen to me. And I was right. So it was a very quick experience. I took the jump. I flew into the air. I came down. It was almost like I flew way up and then over and then came down, and I landed on my front tire, handlebars, my head. That's where the head injury came in. And my body flipped around. So my bike basically landed on me. I landed on my back, and then I was out. I was out of my earthly consciousness. I don't know how much time had passed since my next experience, but the next thing I remember, I was floating above the trees, but it wasn't like an astral body experience. It was an awareness of who I was, and it was a very familiar awareness of who I was, but it was like eyes looking out. It was like, I explain it like a ball of energy, but I can't even say that it was a ball of energy. So I was floating above the trees, the redwood trees, maybe just right above them and around them. And there was this peace, this just incredible, serene peace, no thoughts, a connection and awareness of total silence. And I stopped for a minute, and this part of me stopped for a minute and just examined my senses. My senses seemed to be very much alive at this point. I could see extreme detail of the redwood trees around me, the dewdrops on the needles. I could hear dogs bark miles away, birds. I could even hear the ocean and sense the ocean, which is about 5 to 10 miles away from where I was. And so I was I could feel the wind blowing through me. It was just an incredible experience. And then I was like, well, where am I? What am I doing? And I looked down at my body, and I saw my body there, and it was kind of wrapped up. I looked very much dead. And it was kind of like a microvision, seeing my body and then zooming back up. And the next phase, time is very fluid, so I don't know how much time had gone by. There really is no time in that space. The next thing that happened was a question, and it wasn't like a being, or it wasn't like I was given this question. It was just an inner knowing question of, do you want to go explore further, or do you want to go back? And my instant gut reaction was, I don't want to die. And that's literally what brought me back into my body. That instant I had said those words, I was back in my body. I was trying to catch my breath. I was having trouble breathing. There was an extreme amount of pain moving through my body from head to toe. I could feel like this electrical stabbing pain moving through me, my muscles, everything. I couldn't move. I didn't know if I had broken anything. And the next thing, I opened my eyes. I was breathing heavy. My heart rate was rapid. And so my vision was blurry, but at the same time, it was very interesting because I could still kind of see that clarity that I had at the top of the trees, but it was different. I was back in my body. And what I had seen and what I experienced were little beings, which I would call fairies, coming down from the trees and floating around me, kind of giggling. You know, some of them had kind of translucent garments on, different color hair, skin. Some of them were naked. They all had wings, and they were flying around, kind of dive bombing me, flying around me, giggling. And I was like, wow, what an incredible experience. But simultaneously, I heard the sound, and it was like this humming, this beautiful humming sound, and I could feel it in my body. Of course, there's pain going on, but I could feel this sound, and I kind of looked around at the trees, and I knew it was the trees, and I knew the trees were communicating with me and healing me. And I actually didn't know that at the time. I felt it, so I knew this, but I didn't know what it really was until later on. I read this amazing book series called the Ringing Cedar series, about this woman in Russia who lives in the forest. And she talks about cedar trees, which redwood trees are cedar trees. So I'm having these experiences, and I feel like it was kind of especially with the fairies, like, it's okay, like lighten up, it's okay. And then I began to breathe again, and bringing my awareness back to my breath was what brought that feeling of pain and that awareness of the pain in my body, which was almost unbearable. So it's almost like my consciousness went out at that point, and I decided to not experience that pain anymore is what I wanted to do. So my consciousness went out. So the next thing I remember, I don't know, I'm guessing it was hours later, I woke up in the hospital with a funny looking doctor looking over my head and saying, you're very lucky. You're lucky you're alive. You didn't break anything. And I heard him repeat it over and over again. And finally, once I was aware of him, he started to ask me questions such as, what's your name? Where do you live? What town where do you live? What town is this? Are you a man or a woman? I didn't know. I was like, no, I don't know. And then he asked me for any phone numbers that I might have known. And I blurted out a number, and it was a family friend's number who lived in town. And I think just within a few hours, they came and got me. So yeah, that's the I guess that's kind of the juice of my near-death experience.
That is juicy. Okay, I have quite a few questions, and then I want to get into your spiritual healing and more of that. But for one, the redwood forest, like, I mean, I could only imagine how great it is just to breathe while you're there. The
Yeah.
clean air, the fresh air, and the simple fact that you had this experience there, along with the trees. Like trees to me are so important. Obviously, they're so vital to our existence. But I fancy trees. I know it sounds weird, but so this story of yours had really caught my attention, and I just feel like it resonates with me because I love trees and the fact that they were like healing you in a sense. Okay, so my question to you is, as far as this day, did you have an inclination, like an intuition, a gut feeling of something happening that day ahead of time, or was it just a normal day and it just happened?
Yeah, I would say the latter. It was a normal day. Normal meaning for me, I was still in a very depressed state, and there was that accumulation of that depression. I had, just recently broken up with my girlfriend. Um, my second semester had ended. I was looking for a job. Nothing seemed like it was changing. I didn't have any inclination though. It was just like I was going about my day when I was traveling through the forest.
Mm.
So it was a surprise, definitely.
Guys. And while
Yeah.
you were above I mean, those trees are so tall. How high did you get, do you think? If you can give us an estimate above your.
Well, these trees, they weren't the old growth. They were the second generation coastal redwood trees. Um, so the trunks weren't as thick, but they were still incredibly tall. I would say maybe anywhere from 250 feet to 300 feet.
Wow.
So yeah, so my awareness of me was at that height. However, I mean, was I really there? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like it's distance is a 3D term. It's a earthly term. So but that's what I was experiencing at that time. Yeah.
And could you see like a full 360, or was it like your normal vision, as if you're seeing with two eyes, or?
It felt like my senses were 360. Um, but when I decided to focus on like the redwood needles, it was like, microvision. Or when I decided to focus on something, I mean, I could see the ocean way off into the distance. I felt like I was facing the ocean way, and then I had the forest, the rest of the forest behind me. So I wouldn't say it was like I could see 360, but it was more like feeling 360, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And so when you were back in your body experiencing the pain, was it instantaneous that the fairies came and kind of like came by you and flew by you? And how many were there, would you say?
It wasn't instantaneous because, well, they could have been flying around me already, but it wasn't instantaneous because I was dealing with this pain. And it was like in my body, feeling this pain, and then my eyes started to slowly open, and then and then there was an adjustment period. I don't know how many fairies, maybe a dozen. I mean, it felt like there were a lot of them, but it wasn't like a whole colony. It was like a family of fairies, basically. So yeah, I would say maybe like a dozen or so. If
That's
I
so That's
Yeah.
amazing that they all had like different haircut or different hair color, and the translucent attire. Very
Yeah.
interesting. Have you looked this
Yeah.
up online to see like what type of fairies they could be? Because I know
I
there's so many different types throughout history that people have seen.
I did a long time ago. I was interested. I mean, there's even a picture online somewhere where there's a real photograph of one, I think, sitting somewhere, and it couldn't have been altered because they didn't have digital photography back then. So I'm not a fairy expert, and I really haven't, I haven't gone and looked at, studied them. I think that's partially due because I want to hold on to my own experience of that. And I don't want there to be a filter, because I think anything that I read or hear about, there's the filter from the person who it's coming from.
Agree.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, As far as that experience, I have to say it's profound. It's amazing. And I'm so glad you're alive. I'm sure, like, how did you feel? Were you happy to be back when you said you wanted to be back, although the pain was there and the fact that you didn't remember, and now you're back in this body, and you were just, had this consciousness of, just not being in a heavy body. What did you feel like, I guess, once you're back and kind of like back in your like day in, day out activities, somewhat normal activities, I guess?
So my activities weren't normal, and no, I didn't want to be back. It took me a while to figure out why I came back, and it was almost like it was worse than it was before my NDE. And when I say worse, I mean, first of all, my body, I had neuromuscular damage. I had a C7 slip disc, which was causing pain down my shoulders and my arms. I didn't break anything, so I could walk around, but it was like every step I took, I could feel this electrical pain moving through my body. I knew that was my sole goal, was to feel better in my body. I wasn't trying to figure out why I came back at that point or what was going on. At the same time that I was experiencing this physical pain, all of the depression and the emotions that I had been suppressing for so long and resisting were magnified, I would say. And now looking back, I know that they were magnified because it was like, it's time to process this. And my body and my mind and my emotions, they all worked as one, processing this and healing. Yeah. So
that's a lot. That's heavy. How long did that take? I mean, obviously you're still on your journey, but how long, like, did it really take to get back to like feeling like it's like good? And now you're helping so many people.
Well, it took a while. I didn't have, I can't even say awakening, because I know this is called the Awakening series, but we can talk about that later as well. But it was my physical body, as far as the pain is concerned. I was able to, with the assistance of a very talented man named John Stiles, who had a practice in the Northwest, and now I believe he's in the Southwest. Network chiropractic is a very beautiful form of chiropractic. It's non-invasive. It deals with the nervous system. So somebody had suggested this person to me, and within about 6 to 9 months, he had assisted my body in healing itself. So I can't say he healed it. He had assisted with the process within about 6 to 9 months. I was seeing him twice a week for a while, and it ended up being once a week. And then he was like, "Oh, you're good. You can come back if you want, but you don't have to." And
wow. Thank goodness for him. And
yeah,
your willingness to want to get better. I think it's a mindset as well. I'm sure it was hard.
Yeah. But additionally, the emotional trauma and the resistance that was forming in my body was being released as I was getting these healing treatments, and then for years after. So the depression I had was, magnified, like I had said, but it was also beginning to dwindle. So my perception of what was happening with emotions and everything, there was like a separation where I was able to observe it and accept it fully. And because of that, it was able to move through me and to process a lot quicker through my nervous system.
Oh, I don't think of things like that, but that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Wow. Very interesting. So as far as your spiritual healing, when did you know that you can, let me back up. From this near-death experience, a lot of people have or come back with a gift. Do you have a gift?
Well, I think we all have gifts. Oh. And I say that humbly because, there's spiritual gifts, but you can be the best mom in the world, which, I bet you're an incredible mom. That's a gift. Being a school teacher, is a gift. Whatever whatever your talent is or your passion is, that's a gift. So I don't want to separate, what be considered healing gifts from day-to-day gifts, because they're really the same thing, all gifts. But yeah, I mean, my gift, I came back, it wasn't an experience of, oh, I've got this gift now. It was a process of my own healing, which it always is. We can really only truly heal ourselves, but we can receive assistance and help from others. So as I was receiving this assistance from other people, and it was this man, but it was also other people that I had trusted with energy work. And I've always been very cautious about who I trust, because I know, there could be some kind of weird energy out there, and people say that they do healing. So it's people that have integrity, people who have their hearts open, which is a prerequisite, I think, for doing any kind of energy work. You have to have your heart open, so you're overflowing, so you can give. This was a process, like any process. Discovering my gift, I think it had a lot to do with, well, at that time of my NDE, I felt like there was a part of me that was the part of me that is kind of knows everything, that's connected to the divine. I believe more of that part of me kind of entered my body, if that makes sense, or at least made itself known within this being of who I am. So it was a slow revealing, and I think it became revealed to me as I was learning body work. I had many adventures along the way, but I started to focus on massage therapy and neuromuscular therapy, craniosacral therapy, and all of these healing modalities, because I saw the effect it was giving others, and also myself through my own process. So I had learned what I believe was like quantum healing, and it was from a very wise, special woman back in the year 2000. So this was 3 years after my near-death experience. And it kind of gave me a catalyst of understanding how to work in this quantum field, which I actually call the creation field. I don't call it the quantum field. I call it the creation field. And so as I was doing body work, so I got this physical aspect and then the spiritual aspect of this being able to do distance healing. I kind of developed I shouldn't say developed it. It came to me, discovered my own ability to work with people in a way that was very intuitive and very respectful, where I listen, and that's basically all I do is listen, and then I watch as the transformation happens. So as people are talking, I tend to be able to see where the resistance is happening in the nervous system. Again, going back to the nervous system, that's what I needed to heal within myself. And so I was able to understand the nervous system on a very basic level, not on a high neuroscience type level, but on just a very basic understanding. But then the gifts from within showed me where this resistance was being held as in the form of molecules within the nervous system. So I can see that happening when I'm working with people, and it really is about working with people, not on people. And then the energy comes in and is able to clear those molecules that are holding on to resistance, if the person is open. Sometimes they're not ready, and which is fine. Then I would ask questions, tell me about something else. If they, like, one question will lead to another, and then we can go back to the original resistance that's held, and then it might clear. So it's an intuitive process. It's very beautiful. It's interesting because I don't consider myself a healer. It's more of a reflection of what people tell me their experiences, both during and after the session. So I guess that's my humbleness.
You're very humble, I have to say, because when we had a session and I feel like it was like a moment, and I don't usually have many of these, but this one was, and I definitely had some energy that wasn't moving, whether it's stuck or blocked, however you want to say it, whatever molecules, like it was something that was there. And when you guided me and you saw where it was, and you had me feel it in that specific area, I could feel it. And when we walked through the guide of releasing it, oh my gosh, like it was like a ton of bricks were like released off my shoulders from that clearing, and you working with me. And it's like you saw it in your mind's eye, or you felt it, or you knew it. I had no clue where it was until you actually brought me to that place, and then I can feel it too. And I knew something was different because I was like, there's something I need to like work on or maneuver through. And you like, again, like back to your mind's eye, I mean, that was just brilliant. I just felt so light after. I felt so good. I felt like I could get back to, focusing on what I needed to focus on and not focusing on whatever it was that was uncomfortable and stuck and blocked. And that was amazing. So I'm a testament to what you do and how you do it. And it's remote. Like that was pretty brilliant. You're welcome to talk a little bit about that if you want.
Oh, you mean your experience? Oh, so yeah, I mean, everyone is completely different. So there's no cookie cutter type, formula to um, the experience. And it's hard for me to remember everything. So I'm sorry if I can't be a testament. It's because, I'm in this different space. It's an observation space. And, with your permission, it's like I'm observing what's going on. So it's not like, oh, you're like, here, I'm healing you. It's like, oh, okay, so this is where the resistance is. And, you had explained to me some, areas in your life that where there was a resistance. And so that's where you go, and that's, it's not like, oh, well, this happened, when you were on the planet, Alcyon 3 billion years ago. I mean, that could be true, right? But it's like being down to earth, like what's happening right now. And
it was really special, Tyler. I really appreciated it. And I love that you said everybody is different, because you're right. We're all different. We're all in different places. We all have different, everybody has something. And it's so wonderful to have people like yourself to be able to have that extra sense to help and heal and clear, and really making one person feel better, then they make somebody feel better. And it's just like this domino effect. And I really am very happy that, you decided to go down this path after your profound near-death experience. It's just so wonderful to meet people like yourself that give back to just, like everyday people. And you do it in such a different way that like the experiences that people have with you, like myself, is just so different than just going to see a doctor or a therapist. Not to say I don't love them both, and I believe in them wholeheartedly, but I also believe in healers as well, who have that intuition, that extra sense. It's just so powerful. And I wish we can tap into, I wish we had a million of you, so we can all feel better all the time. So yeah, I'm very thankful for all that you do. It's fantastic. And I'd love to give you a chance to give insight about what you do and how you do it for clients in a little more detail. The floor is yours.
okay, so what I had explained is it's very simple. I don't make any impositions. I don't, I really don't advertise myself. I mean, I'm on YouTube talking just freely, and I've had a few interviews, which is fantastic. But I'm not imposing that, I have a gift. Again, I guess that's my humbleness. That's what people say. I don't want just anybody to come to me. You have to feel it. You have to feel inside yourself that that's the right thing to do. And so when I know that when I book people, I'm like, okay, this is the right person that, needs some help right now in my life or in their life, maybe my life too. I don't know, because it's kind of the same, really. So, when I know that when I book people, I'm like, okay, this is the right person that, needs some help right now in my life or in their life, maybe my life too. I don't know, because it's kind of the same, really. So, when I know that when I book people, I'm like, okay, this is the right person that, needs some help right now in my life or in their life, maybe my life too. I don't know, because it's kind of the same, really. Yeah. So I don't really see myself separate. And I know there's this talk about, oneness and everything, but I think there are a lot of people that have trouble with that term oneness because we do feel separate and we do have our individual experiences in our individual lives. But in the same way, everything that I experience is happening inside me on a molecular level. So when somebody comes to me, it's, there's something within me as well that needs to be cleared. So I don't see it as just a one-sided thing at all, really.
This has been so great, Tyler. I'm so happy and thankful for all of your insight today. I do have another question, and then I'd love for you to tell the audience where we can find you and how they can be helped by you. What type of advice would you give your younger self now that you know all that you know, maybe even during the time that you were in college?
Yeah, that's a great question because we look back and say, oh, what if, right? If I had the inner wisdom that I feel that I have for myself now, I would go back and I would say, appreciate who you are. And I'm not talking about Instagram selfies, self-love, look at me. I have, there's this whole hype about self-love, right? But it's true. When we can really appreciate ourselves in our day-to-day life, whatever we're going through, whatever we're doing, then these experiences, these resistances that we have to life, they don't need to come in. They don't need to continue to come in the way that they have. So that would be my biggest message is, cultivating this feeling of appreciation, of gratitude for yourself. And then you'll begin to discover who you truly are, and you won't have the resistance to life. You won't need to come to people like me. You can do it all yourself.
If we would have had this advice when we were younger, we just weren't taught. But guess what? We are teaching now, and with people like yourself and others, it's so much easier to learn from you guys because you actually had, such profound experiences where we probably didn't, and it makes sense. I mean, I think it resonates with so many people. I love that answer. Thank you, Tyler. That was beautiful.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So where
Yeah.
can we find you? Like, if people want to, like, just get in your groove and
Okay.
coach or healing or whatever it may be.
Yeah, so my website is radicalheartworks.com. So radical like cool, and then heartworks, the heart. And I have some free content on there as well. I have a prayer list that's free. My YouTube channel, there's a link to my YouTube channel as well. If you can book a session, if you feel called, there's more information about who I am and how I work. And I have a blog post there too that has, different blogs that might be useful for people, maybe. So yeah, that's how you can contact me. And I have a contact page. So if you have something specific you want to ask me, you can do that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tyler. Again, I appreciate that you do all of your work, and so happy that you're on the show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a blessing, and I'm glad I was able to reach out to you. Like somebody was like, oh, what a genuine person. And yeah, so thank you, Kimberly.
Yeah, take care.
You too.